Number 15 is supposed to be the hardest question in this section, or at least in the multiple choice part of this section. And I think it's pretty up there. I think this is a pretty accurate representation of the difficulty, but it's actually pretty easy if we know what they're talking about. This is another case where they're basically testing a math fact that if you can memorize it, you're in really good shape. So what I recognize immediately from this question is they're telling us that there's no solution between these two equations in this system. I might also try to ask myself, well, what does it mean? What are these equations? Well, I know that they're lines because we have two variables, x and y, and we have no exponents. That's a really good sign that we're dealing with lines. And what does no solutions mean? Well, a solution, remember, when we're talking about graphs, is an intersection. So these do not intersect. And what does that mean? When does that happen with lines? Well, that happens when they're parallel. Two lines that are going in the same direction never cross. Well, why are lines parallel? Well, it's because they have the same slope. So notice how we're using the words in the question to kind of slowly peel away the layers of what they're asking and get ourselves to a point where we can put this in much more understandable terms. Same slope, that makes sense because if I'm thinking lines, I'm simultaneously thinking y equals mx plus b, and I know that the m part is the slope of the line. So just taking those two facts and bringing them together, I should probably put these equations in y equals mx plus b format to see what's going on. There is a shortcut. Some of you may, just by looking at these two equations, know the answer right now. That is fine. That is something that I think you can probably do in the future and save yourself some time. But I'm going to do it the long way because I think for a lot of us it's hard to see, or at least it's hard to have the confidence in what we think our hunch is going to be here and whether or not that's right. So doing it the long way might give us the confidence to get this hard question right for sure. So let's start with the easier equation. Negative 3x plus y equals 6. I want to get that into y equals mx plus b format. That's really easy to do. I just have to add 3x to both sides, and I have y equals 3x plus 6. So y equals mx plus b. It's pretty standard. Let's do that for the other equation, which is a little bit more annoying. Ax plus 2y equals 4. So the first step is the same. Let's get those x's away from that y. So we subtract that from both sides. We're left with 2y is equal to negative ax plus 4. Well, y equals mx plus b is a very specific thing. Y needs to be alone. Everything else needs to be with that x. The y has to be just a regular old y. So it's not right now because of the 2. So we have to divide by 2 to get it away. And because we have this negative ax thing, we can't really divide by 2 in a nice way. So we're gonna have to just deal with it. It's okay, but it's a little weird. And so just bear with me here. We're gonna have negative a over 2x and then plus 2. The y-intercept actually doesn't matter here. So I don't care that those y-intercepts are different. Even if 4 over 2 didn't work out nicely, I wouldn't care if I had an annoying number there. That doesn't matter because I know from my question that what really matters is the slope. So I'm focused on the 3 and this negative a over 2. Those two things are supposed to be the same. Well, in math, how do we show that things are the same? An equal sign. So really what we're doing here is 3 is equal to negative a over 2. And then we just solve for a. We multiply by 2, get rid of that negative. A is going to be negative 6. And that is an answer. And that is the answer. So there's a lot of steps if we do it this way. But if you look back at the original equation, it kind of makes sense why negative 6 is the answer. Notice if we had just multiplied this side of the equation by 2, we would have ended up with what we ended up with, right? Negative 6 is a, right? So negative 6x plus 2y is just doubling the left side of that original equation. And that's because when lines are in the non-y equals mx plus b form, the relationship between x and y is really what the slope is. And so we want that relationship to continue, the ratio between those values. And that's what's happening here. If that doesn't make sense to you, there's absolutely nothing wrong with taking a couple extra seconds and doing it the long way and getting it into y equals mx plus b terms where you do see what's going on. It's a little easier to understand. I would rather be sure about an answer like this than have no chance because it's just a bunch of vocab and nonsense. If we can translate the vocab into something more understandable, suddenly this becomes a totally doable question. It's really just an instruction to find the slopes and set them equal to each other. And I think anybody can do that.